Hello, and welcome to Leaders in the Spotlight. I am Dawn L. Brown, President and CEO of EmpowHer Institute, and I am your host for today's episode. So I bet you're wondering, where's Tige? Well, today, Tige is in the hot seat. That's right. We are learning from and shining the light on the illustrious founder and CEO of Kids in the Spotlight. Now, please join me in welcoming today's leader in the spotlight, Tige Charity. Welcome, Tige.
This is so amazingly weird. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. Let me tell you how honored I am to be able to come here. You allowed me to come and to interview you.
Of course. Who better? Who better to do this but Dawn? I'm scared. Yes, I'm scared, but we're here.
Listen, we just gonna talk like we talk on the phone all the time, right?
All the time, right?
So we're gonna sit at your feet today, and we're gonna learn from you, right?
All right.
Let's
do this.
So we're going to start with the obvious. Now, you started Kids in the Spotlight in 2009. Mm-hmm. So describe to me the journey that led you to that moment.
You know, Dawn, honestly, that's such a loaded question because so many things were happening in my life leading up to that point. My husband and I were still fairly new to California. We had only been here for a couple of years. And I was at a crossroads in my life, in my career, and just trying to figure out, who am I? What is my purpose? Like, what am I doing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it was around 2007 that my husband was teaching an acting class with a theater group that he was a part of at an all-girls group home. And during that visit, I got a chance to accompany him. Mm-hmm. And it was my first time being up close and personal with kids in foster care. And the experience literally cracked my heart wide open and compelled me to want to do something to give back. Now, when I say I was at a crossroads, I was working insurance. My background is 16 plus years as a litigations claims specialist. My degree, undergraduate degree, is in accounting from Oral Roberts University, where I learned early on in my pursuit of accounting that was not for me.
Girl.
Not for your girl. I'm like, But hey, I've spent, 3 years studying it. I'm not staying in school any longer, so I got to push through and get that degree, right? Mm-hmm. So I did. But it was in 2008 when the economy started to go through a recession. Okay. And because we were fairly new to California, I had started this job at a private agency. I worked in the insurance department, in the risk management department, and it was a department of 3. I was the last one in. So when they started laying off around the company, I knew that the insurance department was going to eventually get hit, and when they got hit, I was going to be the first one out, last one in, first one out. Right. And in 2009, February of 2009, that's exactly what happened. I got laid off from my corporate job, and I was just like at a loss. But then I remembered the girls that I'd met at that group home. And several things happened in between. Like I said, it's a loaded question. Several things were happening during that time that I got laid off. We were doing a series at my church called Discovering God's Dream for Your Life. I'm like, what next, God? I'm just like, I don't want to get in the rat race of looking for another insurance job. It's not fulfilling. I'm just, what? Like, I was just at my what with God. So one night, after having what I call a temper tantrum with God, I believe he reminded me of the girls that I'd met at the group home when I went with my husband on the day he was teaching. And from there, I believe I heard God say, create a platform for kids in foster care to be seen, heard, validated, and celebrated. Invite the entertainment industry to invest in this community of young people. They need this. And don't just stop at allowing them to create their own film. Create an Academy Award-like event where we can really celebrate them. So we, also created the Kids Film Awards. At the time, it was called Kids Film Festivals, Movies by Kids for Kids. But that's sort of the abbreviated version without all of the, the long, drawn-out, dramatic scene.
Right. So this was like real and true divine intervention at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
Because you didn't even have a theater background, a film background. You just heard the voice of God.
Absolutely.
And said, this is where I'm led to go.
Absolutely. It didn't have any of that. My husband, like I said, is an actor.
Right.
And he will probably tell you I'm very dramatic, but I didn't have a background. And when I came to California, when my husband and I moved here, he would always say, Tige, you can do other things. Like, you don't have to just do insurance. You've been exposed to the arts. You love the arts. see what the art leads to. So I auditioned for a couple of plays and booked them, girl.
Okay.
I was like, oh, wait, hold on.
Okay.
Sister booking. And it just opened up a whole new world for me. And I was like, what if I can give this to young people? Because I knew I would never pursue it on a professional level. I'm not a trained, for real. But so that's what led me to this place.
But that's what I love. I love that no matter, and I was speaking to a group of young people in college last week, and I was saying, like, the truth of the matter is that if you listen to your gut and you listen to spirit, no matter what direction you go in, it's going to lead you to where you're supposed to be.
It's going to lead you to purpose.
Right? It is going to lead you to purpose. So I love that. But you started this nonprofit in the middle of a recession.
Girl,
yes.
Yes.
Right? And at a time when you were unemployed, so it wasn't like you had something to fall back on.
Right.
So let's go back to the early days of Kids in the Spotlight. And what was that like? What was the biggest challenge that you were facing at that time, and how'd you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge was my own ambition. I was so excited when I felt like I had purpose and God was giving me this thing to do. I was like, okay, thank you, I got this. And I just started to run ahead full pace. Like if you know anything about filmmaking and all of the intricate details of filmmaking, I was the producer, I was the craft service person, I was the caterer, I was the one putting call sheets together, I was the one booking all the talent to work with the kids, I was the one looking for the schools, I was the one pitching to the schools. Like I was literally running on 100, even when I was tired. Like I was pushing past being exhausted, and I was doing it all basically out of pocket, unemployed, credit cards. Like that's how much I believed in the vision of what I was given, but I wasn't pacing myself.
Right.
And I wasn't actually, okay, Tige, you've got this vision, let's sit down and create a plan. And we did fundraisers, so there was some money. It wasn't all out of pocket, but I was taking on
The bulk
of the expenses to do the work that I believe was given to me to do. So I think ambition was the biggest challenge for me, because I called on a lot of people. Like my husband's an actor. I called on people, his friends. The church that I was attending at the time. We had a lot of industry people there. My pastor was a former Motown songwriter, Frank Wilson, the late great Frank Wilson. And so there were a lot of people from the entertainment industry that was attending my church. So I was like, hey, Pastor gave us this assignment about discovering God's dream for your life. Well, I believe I discovered mine and I need your help. So it kind of, pulling on the community at the same time to help, build what I believe God had given me to do.
Okay. So, and that is such a great lesson for us to even look at today as nonprofit leaders, because we're always trying to do everything, right? We're always putting on all the hats and trying to do everything, burning ourselves out, and forgetting the fact that the community has to wrap their arms around us.
Yes.
Right?
But that's the whole purpose of nonprofit.
Exactly.
It's for community.
It's the community.
We
are the community, right?
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So, but today you are the owner of a beautiful production studio, and Kids in the Spotlight is thriving. So talk to me about the journey to the building ownership. And I remember you telling me that story about the decree. So talk to me about that.
Okay, well, first, so leading up to getting the building, I believe that sometimes God gives you vision in steps. Like, I don't think he gives it everything at one time, at least not for me. Because I think if God had showed me in the beginning that we would be owning a production studio, I'd be like, quit tripping, like, for real, like, I just don't see it. But as we begin to do the work, and within the work, we're renting out all these production studios, because the mission of Kids in the Spotlight is to allow young people to write, cast, and star in their own short films, telling their stories their way through storytelling and filmmaking. So when they write these scripts, we're producing their films, and we're spending all this money on renting studios. And I felt like God was like, what are you doing? Now it's time. You create the studio, but you get to create a studio that becomes a social enterprise that really connects industry professionals to the work, where they can rent out the space and young people from the system can shadow and actually intern and get work from the productions that's happening. I'm like, oh God, you're so much smarter than me. I love it, right? So when I went on that journey, we got so many no's because building owners, even, just wanting to lease the building before purchasing, everyone was saying no. When they found out what the mission and the vision of KITS was, they were like, no, because they envisioned foster youth in their space, wrecking up their stuff. Like it was a very negative stigma around it. And it was very discouraging. I had like 3 realtors who was looking, and I just got frustrated. I'm like, okay, God, if you really want me to do this, I'm gonna get online and I'm gonna look for myself. And I did, and found this place, came to it, spoke with the broker who was over this place, and just say, look, this is the deal. This is what I'm struggling with. And I was just honest and vulnerable. And he said, let me talk to the owners and I'll get back to you. And he did, and the owner said, yes, we can, and we'll do a lease to purchase. Like, let her lease it, but by the end of the year, she's got to be ready to purchase this building because we don't want to, they didn't want it. They wanted to be done with it. So I was like, let's do it. So we did it, and we started, the whole journey of ownership and doing all the things. And one of my board members, who's a insurance agent, not an insurance agent, real estate agent, she was, doing all the background work, getting the deeds and all of that stuff. And one of our other board members who also does everything is always a loaded question, right? Who also works in property. When he read the deed before I did. And so he called me and said, Tige, I just read over the deed. And he said, I'm sending it to you, but I highlighted a certain section of the deed that I really want you to focus on and to just pay attention to. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. Like what? I'm thinking, oh God, it's something they need that we don't. I'm just freaking out, right? So when I get it, there's a section that says that no part of the premises should ever, under any circumstances, be occupied, rented, leased, purchased, conveyed, all the words, to anyone of African descent, Japanese descent, Chinese descent, and my mouth just dropped.
Wow.
Wide open.
Wow.
I was like, wow. I said, people have been thinking a long time how they can keep Black people, minorities down.
Right. Because it's a system, right? And I love that you were faced with, honestly, the ultimate no, and you said, we breaking this cycle.
Oh,
right?
That was a motivation. Like, okay, well, we got to do everything we can.
We got to own this.
We have to purchase this building for sure, if for no other reason, because you decided from the early 1900s that we weren't worthy enough, smart enough, skilled enough to own and occupy our own building.
And what I love is that you have that framed, and when we walk into this beautiful studio, it's there.
People want us to forget, but I'm like, no, we can't forget. Our children need to know these are the oppositions that we had to face as a people.
Right.
If nothing else motivates you, this alone should motivate you to have your feet on the ground, 10 toes down, as the young people say, pursuing purpose and leaving a legacy, because people of old were trying to make sure you didn't own a thing.
See, this is why I wanted to talk to you. This is why I wanted to interview you, right?
Girl.
But see, the other part of that, though, Tige, and don't miss this part, which is that also sends the message of who you are and who we are today. That we broke that cycle, that we killed that part of the system, right? And look at where we are today. So even when somebody, and that's what young people got to know, especially young people from systems like the foster care system, right?
Yeah.
That even when folks close their doors and try to hold you down, you go, nope, I'm still taking over.
You better find a window.
Okay.
You better find.
So I love that. I love that.
You better find the Underground Railroad.
Right.
You better find it.
It's not just about the history of that, but where we're going forward in that too. And I think that's so relevant because of where we are in 2025. Because, honey, they trying to take us back. So let's talk about that for a second, right? Let's talk about that for a second.
Do we have to?
Right. But we're gonna put a spin on it. So 2025 has been a challenging time for nonprofit organizations.
Yes.
How are you weathering the storm and ensuring sustainability for your organization?
I mean, well, as you know, I am a woman of faith. I do believe in the power of prayer, and I spend a lot of time praying and talking to God. There's a scripture that says, a man plan his ways, but God establishes his steps. But there's also a scripture that says, lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Christ, and he will direct your path. So I'm like, God, I need you to direct my path, because it looks scary. But you also said no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So girl, I go to my source and I navigate through the source. But I also ask God for wisdom. Who do I connect with? I connect with leaders like Don L. Brown. Like, we keep each other encouraged, because there are times when I'm like, Don, I don't see a way, and you speak life, and vice versa. And having that community is so important.
Yes.
So that's how I navigate. And I navigate by being open and honest with my team as well, because we're a village. We're doing this work together. So, I'm like, God, you said you have not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Help me to operate with a sound mind. So that's who I am. That's where my faith lies, my trust lies. So no matter how chaotic the world and the government seems to be, with the twists and turns, I'm keeping my eyes on him.
That's beautiful. I hear you. So you are a published author. You are a building owner, a TEDx talk, presenter, and a success, and you also have a successful and impactful company. So, what do you still want to accomplish?
Ooh. The end goal for the organization is to create a performing arts boarding academy for young people in foster care, from the ages of 9th to 12th grade. And I tell people all the time, think Duke Ellington. So I'm real privileged because I'm sitting here with a Duke Ellington alum.
Yes.
But I think the Duke Ellington model of your main curriculum during the day, but then afterwards you're immersed into the arts. And there's something so powerful about the arts platform. And there's something very powerful about doing the thing that you love, whether it's dance, whether it's screenwriting, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's graphic design, immersing these young people in the thing that brings life and give them purpose, but making sure they understand the importance of the academics, right? Because I didn't like school. I'm gonna tell you up front, girl. School was not. I was the thank you Lordy graduate. Okay, I was not the, not the cum laude. No, I was the thank you Lord. I made it, but now I understand education as an adult on a much different level than I did when I was younger. So I'm just trying to make sure that we make sure that the obstacles these young people in foster care face are not an excuse. We are trying to eliminate those obstacles by creating a performing arts boarding academy. So that's the I believe is the end goal. I'm like, God, if you drop something else after that, I don't know.
Child. No, I love that, because you talk about how you didn't like school, but I loved school because I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, right? Because we had, I love the arts, right? And the academics was important. And we had these teachers who appreciated, even our academic teachers understood what it meant to nurture artists. And so, we were creating rap songs in geometry class, right? So I love that. I love that. And we should talk about that, because, the EmpowHer Institute, we're looking at, possibly doing a school as well. So I can see it.
We be exploring, girl.
So now, at this point in your career, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned about leadership and supporting a team?
Ooh, man, the biggest lesson I think that I've learned is trust, is really learning to trust the process, to trust my own voice, and to really lean into trusting God. Because sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, that don't feel right, that don't look right, I don't know, I think I know better. But for me, it's trust on every level. And with building a team, what most people don't know is that majority of my team were friends I had before I even started the organization.
Okay. See, that makes sense now, because when I walk into the space, it always feels like family.
And
now
is.
that makes sense to me. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But then, like, as a founder, this is your baby. So how do you give that up and in a space that you are able to trust them? And also, how do you handle those tough conversations with people who were friends with you before?
And that was part of the challenge, like identifying the culture that we want to set. It was also part of the challenge when you hire new people that you didn't have a relationship with or that you don't have a relationship with, when they come into a culture where you're connected and surrounded by friends and they see and they're like, oh, well, I can. It's like, oh, no, we don't know each other like that. Like, we had to really establish those boundaries, right? So for me, it's going back and separating the friendship from the work leadership, Tige. And it hasn't always been easy, but I think I am surrounded by friends who respect that now and see that now. Like, we still cool, we still Tige cool, but when it comes to work, they understand. Tige is about the mission and the impact of kids. I understand the why very clearly, and nothing gets in the way of the why, not even friendship. So they understand that, and we understand each other. And they know their why too. I think because we constantly reiterate what we're doing here. People know at Kids, if you here for a paycheck, let me help you. I'd rather be a resource for you on your next job than a hindrance, because you don't belong here.
Got it. So, okay, so we got to wrap up, but I have to ask you this. I know, right? Because I got like a bunch of other questions I want to ask,
let's
right?
take 10 more minutes.
So, right.
Time is it?
I mean, you are the boss, you know. Like,
give us 10 more minutes. Producers, can we have 10 more minutes? Is our next guest here yet? All right.
Let me ask you this question, though. I got to ask this question because you are juggling being a wife, a mother, and also, you know, running a company. So how do you balance all of that and take time for yourself?
Oh, Lord, Dawn, for real.
I know. That's why I'm pushing you.
Oh, God. I don't. I mean, the short answer is I really don't. I'm working on that. That's something that I'm really, really working on, because in the equation, I feel like I come last. And that's been really taxing on me. So I'm now trying to kind of navigate that ship in a different direction so that I can have a more balanced life, because oftentimes I pour to the point of depletion, like when there is nothing, like nothing. And it got so bad to the point where I lost sight of what I even like. Like, I just lost sight of, well, what do you like? Other than, you know, worship service, girl. I do get my lifeline Sunday mornings, and then just in my private time of just worship, of like, that's when I'm fueled. But in the private time, I find most of the time it's in between, like I'm multitasking. I'm singing in my car, but it's not like that focused time where I can just allow myself to just kind of unwind.
And that, I would tell you this, that's why I asked you that question. Because I need to push you, right? Because God is telling me to tell you. And I truly believe this, because I started writing my questions today and this morning, and I said, and I wasn't gonna write that question. And God was like, nope, ask her about how she's taking time for herself. Don't just ask her about balance, because that's the part she's missing. And she's got to keep going in order to have that school. So how we gonna mix that up, right? So that's the part that I need you to challenge yourself, because you done told everybody now that you are depleted, right?
Put it out there in the streets.
And so you're put it out there in the streets. So now, what you gonna do different, right? And so I'm gonna challenge you to think about that, and we're gonna have another conversation about that at another time.
Yes, ma'am. Part two.
Let's end this with this question: what do you want your legacy to be when you are gone from this earth? What do you want people to remember about Tige?
That she was obedient to what she believed God told her to do, and she pursued it with every ounce of her being. That's what I want people to know, that she was obedient. It's just, for me, it's that simple. That's what I strive for, to please God, and that's what I want people to remember me by. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Tige.
Oh my gosh, you got me all sweaty. Should have put me on the woo, Jesus.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on Leaders in the Spotlight on your own show. And I am going to hand the reins back to you in order to close us out today. But I really do appreciate you allowing me to be here. See, I told y'all that's why we needed to hear from her.
You know, these are conversations that Don and I have quite frequently. And I should have worn my bracelet. I see you, sis, because Don created these bracelets called I See You, sis. And that is so true. We see each other, and that's needed. We need to see more of one another, and not just on the surface, but really deep to deep, compelling and pushing one another to do better, to be better, to lead better, to serve better. Because as leaders, we're called to serve. So that is it. No more preaching. Thank you so much for joining us today on Leaders in the Spotlight. Thank you, Don, for being our guest host. You know, we're going to take this on the road because this girl here, she's a bad girl. I admire her a lot. But I need you to do those 3 magical words: like, share, and subscribe. I hope that we've said and shared something today that will help you and push you on your leadership journey. So until next time, have a wonderful Leadership Day. Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I hope you were inspired and you gained some valuable nuggets that will help you to become a better leader and to walk in your God-given authority. Bye until next time.